Under the shadow of Mount Rainier lies Tacoma, Washington, a city that is thriving in the arts and an up-and-coming music scene. Tacoma is also home to the Old School Preservation Society, a 5-piece gypsy jazz band, playing in the style of music revolutionary Django Reinhardt. This 5-piece band mixes jazz, Latin, and European music, satisfying audiences of all ages and backgrounds. The Old School Preservation Society, or OSPS, was formed in 2007 by guitarist Josh Hagg. The band initially was a 4-piece and since has gained drummer Sam Essexson to the lineup, playing music from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. This band can be singled out by the rhythm guitars and the improvisational solos taken by every member of the band.
I started playing music. I started playing trap set first, and got my first kit when I was about 10, I think, and got it. We found it on the newspaper and looked at it. It's an old Gretsch gold fleck set, maple shell. Cool set. Played that. Took lessons till I was about 14, but in that time frame I decided I wanted to write some music, and it was real hard to write melody. I didn't know how to write melody other than on the piano, and the guitar turned me on a little bit, so decided to get a guitar. And when I was at the guitar shop paying last payment on the guitar, there was a guy there playing, and what he was playing, I really liked it. I didn't really know what it was. I knew it was jazz, but it was different than what I'd heard before. And so I asked him if he gave lessons, and he said yeah. And I got his name, and his name was Neil Anderson, and is Neil Anderson. We're still good friends. We still play, and he got me started in Django stuff.
How did OSPS form?
Well, Jesse and I played in a funk band together back when I was first married, so I was about 20, and they lost their bass player, so I stepped in and started playing bass, and that's where I met Jesse, and it's funny now, he was guitar player and I was bass player. He was kind of leader of the band and I was bass player, and now we've reversed roles and he's the bass player and I'm the guitar player. And my dad and I, we would just play music. He knew a lot more jazz standards and that sort of thing, and he would make suggestions on songs to play, and we'd play evenings, after dinner, that sort of thing. And we started playing at the Mandolin Cafe, just him and I, two of us together. I'd play changes and he'd play melody, and that's kind of where the whole thing got started. And that's how we met Jim. Jim came to hear us play, and we kind of struck up conversation, and we started jamming, and he bought a jazz guitar. It's kind of all downhill from there.
Well, when I was in college, I studied some jazz. Again, I was still I was a music major and started just typical classical studies. But the teacher that I had was an off-campus teacher, and he was a jazz player. And so I was introduced to jazz a little more under him. And then in my senior year, I actually played in a small jazz group, which I got the gig through the music union, and they just called and asked if I could fill in, and I ended up playing that year with this group. It was an old. They played basically 30s and 40s and 50s music, and so I played with them, and that was really my first venture into jazz, at least in terms of gigs and that kind of thing.
And when did the whole Django Reinhardt Gypsy jazz thing come about?
Yeah, and then because of Josh, he and I were playing just informally in our home and different things, and he became very excited about the gypsy jazz through his teacher, Neil Anderson, and so I learned some of the tunes so that I could play the melodies while he was working on the rhythm part, and that was really where we got started. Then a local cafe Josh asked them, would you be interested in having some music? And they said, yeah, and we didn't really have anything put together. So he and I he played rhythm and I played melody, and we did that for a couple of weeks. And of course we realized we needed some other people, so we got another guitar player and basically started doing gigs every other Sunday at this cafe in Tacoma.
Where is the cane? I will find it. It's the black cane. Robin, do you know where the cane is?
Guitarist Jim Char was born in Hawaii and has played music his whole life. He teaches drama and choir at a local middle school. I was able to catch up with Jim at his school and sit down with him to talk about the band and music in general.
You know, I met Josh, actually it was my daughter. She played at the Mandolin Cafe with her cello trio, I think it was. And she told me about, yeah, this is a great place, it's got free Wi-Fi, it's got great food and coffee, and oh yeah, there's a gypsy swing band playing there. And we're going to be playing that same day next week, so you should come on by and you can see me and you can check out this gypsy band. So that was it. And I heard those guys, and when I introduced myself, and first thing out of Josh's mouth is, hey, you want to jam? And that was it. We started jamming once a week.
So when did you make the change to gypsy jazz? Was that before you met Josh?
You know, gypsy jazz is always something that I've had in me, but I never really knew it existed to the extent that it does. I mean, it was always something that I knew who Django Reinhardt was, but I never even owned a CD of him. I just knew that there was something out there that someone was doing that kind of music, and it was always like, when people ask me what kind of music I'd really like to try, I said I'd really like to try some Django stuff, not really knowing what it was, Then I heard Pearl Django, and Pearl Django really put it all together for me. I remember that first time I saw him, where the Swiss is in Tacoma. I saw them for the first time live. Just kind of walked in on them, didn't know who they were, and they just floored me with that kind of, it was the rhythm guitars that really floored me. And of course, Neil Anderson is he's one of my guitar heroes. That band just put it all together for me.
In 2007, Josh left his job as a graphic arts designer to open his own business, building and repairing fretted instruments. Josh's latest project has been building a custom bass for OSPS bass player Jesse Turcotte. This 6-string electric hollow body bass is a little bit different than your normal 6-string bass, because it's tuned like a guitar. This being perfect for Jesse, seeing as though he started out playing the guitar. Before Josh put the finishing touches on the bass, he wanted Jesse to try it out to see how he liked it. I was fortunate enough to be asked to come and watch Jesse try it out for the very first time.
I didn't want to sink it deep in. And technically it should be as deep in the neck as possible, but I like it underneath the fingerboard because then it changes the neck pretty quickly when you don't have to crank it as much.
There's a bass I had. It's not that one, but the routing on the restaurant one another half inch on either side or something. That's cool. At least on the headstock. Do you have like a single kind of truss rod you get, or do you have like different kinds?
That one's double.
Okay, how'd you get started to play music?
Music in general, wow. Had an aunt who was married to a guy who grew up acting in Shakespeare festivals and playing in old time bands and all this stuff, and I kind of noodled around. He had an old Gibson 400, a super old one that his dad had given him, and his dad was actually the guy who wrote the Hokey Pokey.
Oh, nice.
So he talk about royalties, the ultimate royalty check forever. But got started picking on that thing, and he actually took me and bought my first guitar, and it was a little laminate Hohner acoustic guitar, and it was at Haight-Ashbury Music Center in San Francisco. Totally had the idyllic day picking it out and played them all, and just spent way too much time doing it, but went home totally happy with this $150 piece of junk guitar. And just kind of hunkered down as soon as I moved out of the dorms in college, kind of hunkered down in my room while everybody else was hanging out partying. I was up there playing bad guitar for like a year and a half, and everybody remembers, how bad it was and telling me to shut up and all that stuff. And that slowly, morphed into electric guitar. Had to get that, and that turned into the Funkifino. Eventually, just finding buddies to hang out with and play with, and kind of grew into the first funk band. That was just a few years after I started hacking guitar in a funk band and getting into that. Was how it all happened.
Okay, so how'd you switch over to Gypsy Jazz, and how'd you switch over to the bass?
Two separate questions. Switched over to bass by necessity, because when the Funkifino fell apart, based on either people's personal issues or geographical relocation, it was either not have a band or learn to play bass and be in a band, because I still had a good drummer and a good keyboard player. So that's how Flying Debris started, which was all that 3-piece overcomposed fusion probably, but pretty fun stuff. So yeah, I started the bass kind of by necessity, and then that kind of helped me sort of address a lot of the holes in my theory knowledge, because there's all this big, bite-sized jumbo Crayola crayon kind of way to look at your intervals and stuff like that. And that's really only grown as being a part of the Gypsy band. I really got first exposed to the Gypsy music through Josh. He started, getting into it and getting fanatical about it and putting in so much time. And, for us, hanging out and socializing as friends became hanging out and me starting to learn those songs so I could back him up and play with him. And that turned into, having there be some room in this second Gypsy project that he started, the Old School Preservation Society. And that was really, my first exposure to Django was really through Josh. I'd heard it and I knew how prolific of a musician he was, But it was really through Josh, and I mean, through doing that, I've learned more about music than I probably ever have.
Just got a new member.
No, Sam I met through Jesse. He's a very Latin-based player, but you know, a lot of stuff we do is Latin, so it works out great. It started out just as kind of, you know, Sam comes in, second set, whatever, and it just added a lot to the music, rhythm-wise, and freed me up to do things that I couldn't with just one rhythm guitar playing. So, yeah, I hope he sticks around.
How'd you meet Josh and all those guys?
Just playing around Tacoma, I guess. I think it was Jazz Bones. You know, we're at the jam every Sunday night at Jazz Bones with Brett and a big friction thing. Jesse bartends there. Josh was just a guitarist that went up a few times on stage, and I was really digging his stuff. Really cool. Cool feel he's got going.
Was that your first introduction to Gypsy jazz?
More or less, yeah. I mean, going into this whole thing, I really had no experience playing gypsy jazz, gypsy swing. Barely knew who Django was, so.
But now you like it.
Oh, I love it, yeah.
Because you know, Josh is the one who really is the spark plug of the band in terms of getting it started, and he has a lot of connections in the music world. And actually, Sam was someone that Josh became familiar with. And I remember when he first came to me and said, you know, we met this percussionist, and I think he'd really be great for what we're doing. And the first time that he played with us was just kind of, why don't you sit in with us? And we all recognized immediately that he really had a good touch. He understood the music. He wasn't overpowering, but he was there, and he added a lot. And so, you know, it's tremendous to be able to have that additional rhythm with us. It gives more energy to the music, and it's just really nice. And he's very sensitive in the way that he plays his percussions, and he has such a variety. I mean, the guy just has so many different percussion instruments and gadgets and whatever that it really adds a lot. So I really haven't known Sam personally, you know, except through the band. So basically, he came in through the invitation of Josh and Jesse.
Who influenced you the most in drums?
Probably my teacher growing up, Evan Stone. Used to take weekly lessons.
What was he teaching you? Just jazz, or?
Mostly everything. I mean, he's mostly a jazz drummer, but teaching me every kind of style: funk, rock, jazz.
And what's your favorite style?
Favorite style now has got to be like Latin and Brazilian styles. I'm really getting into jazz now, especially with, you know, OSPS, because that's, you know, doing gypsy jazz, swing, and all that stuff. But yeah, in the last few years, I've really gotten into Latin music, taking private lessons on hand percussion and just Afro-Cuban stuff and Brazilian rhythm.
play with OSPS, your set is quite, shall I say, dumbed down from what a normal trap set drummer would have. Is that for space, or just because that's what the style requires? If you could, would you have more pieces up there?
That's a good question. It's definitely both. There's a serious space restriction in that little corner of Duke's, so this is all I can really fit in that space. But then again, I wouldn't have like 5 toms on the kit and 8 crash cymbals, because that's just ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I really do try to go for just that old jazz feel, just the basics: ride cymbal, hi-hat, snare, bass drum. Yeah, I'm just trying to do my best to emulate the sounds and the feel of that day.
The Django tunes, and mostly, it's all the same song. I mean, you got, the rhythm is what makes it gypsy jazz, and the chord changes you can put in, whatever you want. So, from a guitar player standpoint, it can be a little monotonous, but that's part of being a musician.
How many songs do you have in your repertoire altogether, do you think?
Myself personally?
The band.
Well, I think we probably have, at this point, we probably only have about 50 or so. I can play myself. I have a list, not necessarily written out, but I think I probably know a couple hundred songs. But they're, a lot of them are the same.
How many have you written?
That we perform?
Sure.
We only performed 2 that I've written. We performed 3 that I've written on a regular basis. And I'm not really a prolific writer, so the way I write is I just get something in my head and write it. So it's not like I sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write some songs. I'm not good that way. I hope eventually to have enough songs to do at least a full set of original tunes, but at this point we only have, I've got about 6 that I've written, and 3 of them are at the point where we perform them.
Obviously, there's so many different styles of music, and that's one of the genius of music, is that it's a language that speaks to every kind of person in one way or another. For me, the gypsy jazz brings into contemporary music that era of the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, where there was an optimism. Even during the war years, there was a sense in which music was given to lift the spirits, and to, in hard times, very, very hard times, people had to find a way to still laugh and have a good time. And the thing that I really like about the gypsy jazz is that it's that uplifting kind of happy music. The other thing I like about it is that it has a lot of musical depth. It's the typical standard jazz numbers that we're playing. We're putting it to a slightly different rhythms and so forth, but it's the same chordal structures, which gives a soloist a lot of opportunities to experiment and to move into his own style.
The thing I like about gypsy jazz is that I'll never get good enough. there'll always be another mountain to climb, because the style is so demanding. And you really can't say that about rock or blues. I mean, I think there's a lot of competent guys that can play flawless blues, and they can play it with with everything it takes. But to play flawless gypsy music at the standard that's been set by these giants, since Django, I don't think I'll ever achieve it. And to me, that makes me happy, not sad. At least in my time of life, I don't want to be done with anything. I want to just keep going and practicing. I can truly say, for the first time in my life, it really is the journey, and not the end result.
I expand my capacity to learn through listening to things that I wouldn't think would have an impact on me, but have this corollary, secondary effect that makes me hear things in a different way, play things in a different way, bring different influences. I'm just basically this constant sponge that's like, you ring me out and it's everything I've been listening to, and that's always the most encouraging thing, regardless of what the material is that I'm being exposed to, and that's like probably what I'm most grateful for of all of it.
The most amazing thing to me about gypsy jazz is that it spans so many generations. You have the era of people who were listening to that music when it was new, who enjoy that music. That would be the elderly people in our society, people who are 60, 70, 80. They all very much identify with this style of music. But the most amazing thing about it is that you've got your younger generation that are 20s, 18 to 20 now, that are previously into punk rock and that sort of thing. They like it too, because it's cool music, and there's just no two ways around it. I mean, if you don't like jazz, if you hate jazz, you might like gypsy jazz. So when we play live, it's always cool to see the younger crowd into it, because I think that's what needs to happen to keep this stuff alive.
Portland.
Boom! You came from Portland?
From Portland, man.
What, just to see these guys?
Just to see these guys, man. We're in the house.
I don't even know if that's a good idea. No, I'm playing.
Yeah,
Right on.
Portland is a land of live jazz. It's beautiful. We support it. We heard there was a live band, live jazz band coming here tonight, so we thought we'd enjoy some clam chowder and sit back, relax, and get some live band action going on.